Well, what's up, guys? This is the Equip Show with Joey McKernan, and I am here with Brian Biedelman. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Joey. How are you?
Man, I am good. He is with Beacon of Hope Shelter, and they're a great organization. Brian, I'm excited to learn about you, man. How about really quickly, in like 10 seconds, could you just share a little bit about what Beacon is about, and we'll get into the conversation.
We are a men's shelter that we do everything from emergency to long-term, and we like to call ourselves a restoration center.
Wow. That was 10 seconds. You passed. You did it. Easy. Simple. I love it.
My wife says I'm good at following directions. So.
I try to be sometimes, not always the best. Tell us, how did you get involved? How did you get involved with this nonprofit in a short version?
So I have a background in street ministry, mostly in motorcycling events, and have been in the Fort Dodge community for like 35 years. And the original founder and I were friends, but kind of friends from a distance. You know, we shared the same faith. We ran into each other at church once in a while, and I supported what the Beacon did.
Sure.
But I also had a business background that enabled me to understand inner workings, because running a shelter is basically you're running a pretty good sized business, as you know.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the ministry that you do, but I was doing the same ministry to some of the same people, and had the other thing is I'd come from the recovery community. You know, had 20 plus years clean, and so I understood that part of it as well. So when we shared the same mentor, our founder, Steve Rowe, and I had the same mentor. And when Steve was looking for somebody to take this position when he retired, our mentor said, "Why don't the two of you get together?" So that's where it ended up. That's how I ended up at the Beacon.
And now look at you. You've been there for how long?
So it's been a little over 3 years.
Okay.
And the beginning was interesting because I came here on the 1st of March, and about the 3rd week of June, the chaplain and his wife decided to leave abruptly. And his wife was doing all the books, she was doing payroll, she was doing basically everything to do with administrative duties. And the chaplain was also overseeing the operation of the place. And they left abruptly. And then about a week and a half later, the founder got diagnosed with leukemia. So I was supposed to be on a 2 to 3 year training track, and that turned into 2 or 3 months. So it went quickly. It went very quickly.
That is that's a lot of yep, and that always works, right? You just kind of
it kind of does. It kind of does. I've heard lots of other shelters. We partner with lots of other shelters around the country, and through the same organization, and we there's more than one story like that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, as many of you guys know, I started Open Door Mission and the shelter here in Omaha, Nebraska. And man, it's a fun, in the weeds with the relationships. I mean, it's such a rewarding work. And I always cherished my time doing that. Tell me a little bit about what do you love about your job, man? Like, what's your favorite part about what you get to do?
Here's the answer. Yes.
All of it, everything.
I have a strange, no matter, this is the way I explain it, is no matter what happens today, and there are challenging, yes, it's fun. Yes, it's very much in the weeds. Yes, you have the opportunity to help and encourage every day. But sometimes you have to do things that you really don't want to do. Sometimes you have to ask men to leave because of behaviors. But it doesn't matter what happens today. I can't wait to come back tomorrow.
Wow.
That's really the way I say it is what do I love about my job? I love doing chapel in the morning. I do chapel 4 days a week. What do I love about my job? I love making sure that that all my people are paid. What do I love about my job? Well, I love the fact that I have guys that only come to me because they feel comfortable with me. I love the fact that I have a staff that is here because they want to be here and they can't wait to do what they can do to help. They just, and sure, everybody says, oh, what about the success stories? Well, some of those success stories don't look the way it looks to other people. Sometimes a success story is when a guy wanders off and you lose him for a while. The success is in him coming back and saying, okay, I've had enough. I need to change something. So yeah, the answer is yes. There's not, the one thing that nobody likes is if you have to ask somebody to leave. Outside of that, yeah, we're here every day doing what we can.
It's good. Such a rewarding work. Tell me about kind of your program, so if I'm a guy and I come in and I do an intake form, what does that look like? What is the journey that I can go on with you guys?
It's a typical shelter journey in the beginning where you come in. Most guys that come in are nervous, they're anxious. They wouldn't tell you that, but it's very obvious. Sure. A lot of them have been to shelters before, but most of them haven't. So they sit down and somebody's asking them all these questions, and they tend to have some anxiety with that. So what we try to do here is we have several guys that will, when a new guy comes in, he sits in the office and goes through his intake process, which people don't understand. There's a lot of paperwork that comes with, a guy coming to the shelter. We
Sure.
have to have information on him so that we know, try to know what direction to go with him, try to know how we can help him. And we never get the whole story. Most of the time we get very little of the story. I might get, my wife kicked me out. My family won't let me live there anymore. Why are you homeless? They don't say anything about an addiction. They don't say anything about a mental health issue. They don't, we've seen a lot of guys come in and say, on their intake form, they've never been evaluated or diagnosed with any mental health issues. And yet my intake manager takes a bag full of medicine from him to put it in his medicine box. So, yeah. So that's what it starts with. But what happens is very quickly is somebody jumps in, one of the guys jumps in and helps the guy with his bedding, shows him where his bed's at, shows him where his locker is, where he sits in the dining room, because they all correspond for us. The same bed number is the same locker number is the same seat at the table. So guys will jump in and try to make a guy feel more comfortable, show him around, help him understand the rules. So we like to think that our intake process we feel like it's very personal.
That's good.
And we want to keep it that way.
And I know that's a huge thing, right? For someone to come in and to make that decision to step in there. I mean, just the humility. And I remember that was just a big thing. Just crossing into that can be challenging.
Absolutely.
What do you, in the shelter space, and I know you go to these conferences with all the other shelters, and I know, Candace is kind of those. What have you guys seen as kind of the shifting in the shelter world? What do you see the shifting? What do you see the pivoting? What is changing when it comes to homeless shelters?
And yeah, Candace is kind of really honestly the top of the food chain. She runs a very large organization and a good, strong foundation and lots of services. And what we see, and you would hear lots of other shelters, somebody coined the phrase, and I don't know who coined it, but wraparound services.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just providing food, a warm bed, a hot shower, and a place to sleep at night. We're offering guys direction on counseling, therapy, mental health care, where do we're a small shelter. I'm only 54 beds. So my administrative assistant, who happens to have 6 years at the housing agency, just left when we started the podcast, just left to take one of our guys over to housing because she's the housing expert. So we're providing extra stuff, saying, okay, we'll take you to housing, and we'll take you over and introduce you to the people at community health to start your healthcare process. It's not just shelter. We do some casework, we do some social work, a lot of those things involved. And we're handling a lot more mental health issues and a lot more addiction issues. Not just seeing them, shelters always seeing them, but we're helping them navigate now.
Talk to me.
Oh,
good. Talk to me about, talk to me about the mental health piece, because I think that is a huge thing that people don't realize. And I remember seeing that, when I was in it, like a lot of and I think it's gotten not worse, but I think the resources for people for mental health is getting more scarce. And so I do feel like shelters are taking a lot of the brunt of that. Tell me about how you guys handle that. Do you network? Do you have other therapists that help? Like, what does that look like?
For us, because we're in a smaller community, we actually, first of all, to go to your point, the mental health piece of the puzzle is growing every day. And we're constantly suggesting, hey, maybe it's time for an evaluation, maybe it's time to get connected. For us, because we have a small community, our community health clinic is literally a block away. So we're able to walk guys over there if we have to, because sometimes, we say, hey, you need to go over there. And a lot of times a guy will say, I'll take you over there because I got an appointment, or whatever happens. But we have social workers and mental health care. They even have an insurance expert over there. So guys that don't have Medicaid, or, especially when they come off the street, they don't have any of that. So that's what for us. Sometimes we just literally get up and walk them over there. However, it is no different in Fort Dodge, Iowa than it is in Omaha, than it is in, I have a friend that runs a 20-bed shelter in Sandusky, Michigan, a town of 2,500 people.
I think I've been there. Randomly. Yeah.
Somebody told me the other day that it was the walleye capital of the world. And I'm like, nobody told me this. And it's the same for him as it is for us here. Fortunately, we have strong relationships with all the agencies here in town. And we make sure that we continue that to connect with them. And so we know who to call when we need help. But we do deal with it more. And shelters do take the brunt of the mental health issues in today's world. If it's not the shelter, it's prison. One of the two. Because 80% of the guys that walk in the building have a mental health issue. So we're definitely dealing with it.
Huge. What does the future of your organization look like? What do you guys look like in 5 to 7 years? What's coming down the line?
For us, a lot of physical. We have, I'd like to see 5 years. The building we're in now is about 120 years old. It's 3 levels. Elevators are very expensive to fix. We would love to be for lack of a better term, we'd love to be in a flat space. Sure. And we have a good space downtown. I would like to see it a little bit more off the beaten path. The other thing for us, so from a physical standpoint, that from a staff standpoint, we're hoping to hire a caseworker and be able to afford that, as well as, you know, we have we're filling our kitchen positions with part-time people as far as the management of it. We want full-time and some of those things. However, the biggest growth thing for us is we're diligently working on adding a women and children's shelter to Fort Dodge.
Oh, wow.
You know, we're very strong. Our mission hasn't drifted since it started, and it started based on the love of Jesus for everybody. And there wasn't any place for men in Fort Dodge, and that's why our founder started it. He started going to homeless camps, taking youth groups to homeless camps, spending time at homeless camps on the weekends and the evenings, and it led him to start a shelter. But it's the love of Jesus that started that. We don't change that. That's where the restoration comes in. You know, that's why we call it a restoration center. And going forward, we strongly feel that a women and children's shelter in Fort Dodge that centers around the love of Jesus and restoration is what's needed. So that's what it looks like. In less than 3 years, we're actually approaching the purchase of a building for that, probably in the next couple of weeks. So that's what the future looks like for us. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's a big step. There's a lot more to running a shelter for women and children than there is for a men's shelter. However, that segment is the fastest growing segment in the United States, and it's one that's really not being covered very well here. So we're hoping to help with that.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, how can people get involved with this new project? How can people join? How can people partner?
So probably the easiest way is to go to our website. Every shelter before the time is up, every shelter would say finances thing. But honestly, Joey, we would always take prayer. You know, that would always be first. You know, prayer for us is we feel like it changes things. So if people are praying for us and for the new shelter, we know that it's going to come to fruition. Financially, we're approaching the purchase of a building. Then we have to have that building remodeled, and you know, by the time we're done, we're talking about, you know, in Omaha this isn't big, but in Fort Dodge, Iowa, $2 to $2.5 million is a lot of money.
Big project.
You know,
So it's a big project.
Yeah, private foundations, individuals, you know, that's how we run now. So our website, which is just Beacon of Hope Shelter, beaconofhopemenshelter.com, is again, beaconofhopemenshelter.com is the easiest way. There's a giving page there. Otherwise, I can be reached very simply. I'll give an email address. It's just beaconofhopebrian@gmail.com. And Brian is spelled correctly, which is Brian.
Correctly.
There's always a debate.
There's always a debate. I love it.
But really, that, you know, and reaching out and saying, hey, I want to be a part of this new project.
Well, man, thank you for sharing about Beacon of Hope Shelter. I mean, you guys are doing great work. Congrats on the new project.
Yeah, thank you.
Congrats on what you guys are doing, and I love it. Any last things you'd like to share, Brian, as we're kind of ending our time here?
You know, if I could, I'll share a short story. And that story is about my friend Terry. Now, we call this a success story, and some people wouldn't necessarily think this, but I always like to tell the story of Terry. When our original founder was still here and helping, we told our intake manager before we left, We cannot take this gentleman that they called about because he's with a walker and he's just got out of the hospital from a major stroke and he's got type 1 diabetes, and it's just more than we're equipped to handle. You know, larger shelters have, you know, they have people on staff that are trained for these things, and we weren't. Well, of course we left, and my intake manager has a terrible issue with saying no. So he took Terry, and Terry drove me crazy. Terry, in 2.5 weeks, he would constantly be bringing food into the shelter and passing it out to everybody, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's really kind of a no-no for various reasons. Terry would bring stuff back from our secondhand store and want to put it up on the walls. And at one point, he wanted to buy a hover round type, you know, cart from the store. And I said, Terry, there's no place to store it. We're not equipped for that. Yes, I can get you in the building with your walker. Yes, but we're a 3-story building. You can't bring a power chair or anything like that in a 3-story building. It doesn't work. And, well, I'll keep it somewhere else. And Terry drove me crazy, but the guys loved him. And quite honestly, he just had so much excitement about being here, and I didn't really understand why. And Terry came to me on a Friday afternoon and asked to talk, so I had him in my office and we started talking. And he said, I just came from the doctor, and the doctor said I won't make it 2 years. And I said, well, how do you feel about that? And he said, honestly, I'm going to beat it. And I said, well, the first thing you might want to do is stop bringing chips and candy into the building and feeding yourself that way every day. And we had a nice laugh about that, because obviously his diabetes wasn't very forgiving that way. And he said, nope. He said, I'm going to beat it. And I said, okay, we'll do whatever we can to help you. And we had a nice conversation. And the last thing he said before the end of our conversation that Friday afternoon was he was getting ready to leave, and he stopped and he said, nobody else would take me. Thank you for taking me in. He said, this has been the best 2.5 weeks of my life.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Because 10 o'clock the next night, Terry died. And when we lost Terry, the guys were devastated because they just loved him. And in 2.5 weeks, Terry had been shunned by his family. His own son wouldn't take him in. He'd been shunned by other shelters, because there was other shelters in between where he came from and us. Nobody would take him. We took him in. I'm so thankful that my intake manager ignored what we said. And we believe that was 100% God. And we gave Terry the opportunity to be loved on. We made over him. We did, like I said, he drove me crazy, but we made over on him, and he felt like this was home. And for us, that's a big win. So that's what I would leave everybody with, is the story of Terry. You know, our mission here is to be a different kind of mission, is to be one that the guys feel at home while they're here, and that they know they've been loved on when they go.
Well, Brian, thank you, man. And thanks for what you do. And I love that story. And I think it just captures the heart of what you're after. And I know what you guys are doing every single day.
Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. Guys, as you're listening and you have a heart for this, whether you're Des Moines area, Omaha area, local, Midwest, connect. And it's beaconofhopeshelter.org. Did I get that right?
HopeMen'sShelter.com.
Men'sshelter.com. Okay.
Yep.
Guys, as you Beacon of Hope Brian at gmail.com, and Brian's BRIAN, and I guess that's the real way you spell it, right? And Brian, thank you so much for being on the show, guys. If you'd like to hop on the project, they're doing amazing work, and yeah, I just know they could use the support in a lot of different ways. And so, Brian, man, keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Joy. Sure appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. We'll be back here with another episode.